think the people who raised you would never sell your future for cash? Think again. My name is Jenna Caldwell. I grew up in Willow Creek, Vermont, a sleepy little place tucked against the Green Mountains where everyone knows your name, your truck, and exactly how much your family paid for that last acre of maple syrup land. For almost 4 years, my parents swore my grandmother Evelyn was finally living her dream, cruising the Caribbean on some fancy retirement ship, sending love from white sand beaches while she recovered from her hip replacement. Every holiday card, every phone call, the story stayed perfect, crystal clear, untouchable. Until one sleet-soaked December afternoon, I stopped by the Willow Creek post office to grab a package that had been sitting there for 3 days. Old Mr. Harlan, the postmaster we've all known since kindergarten, slid a plain cardboard box toward me. No return address, just my name in block letters. He didn't smile like usual. Instead, he leaned over the counter, voice barely above the hum of the fluorescent lights, and said, "Jenna, take this home. Don't open it here. And whatever you do, don't tell your folks you got it." My stomach dropped before I even touched the box. I carried it straight to my small rental above the hardware store, locked the door, drew the blinds, and used a kitchen knife to slice the tape. Inside, Grandma Evelyn's favorite silver locket, the one she never took off, engraved with, "For the girls who listen." The chain was broken. Underneath it, a single Polaroid. Grandma, gaunt, eyes sunken, hair thin and gray, sitting in what looked like a hospital room. She was holding today's newspaper. The date? 3 weeks ago. Tucked beside the photo, a USB drive and a folded note on plain paper. The handwriting was shaky but unmistakable. Grandma's. "Jenna, listen alone. They lied. I never left Vermont. Be careful who you trust. The cabin holds the rest." The second I saw her face, really saw her, the whole world I'd built on their stories cracked open. She wasn't on a cruise. She was still here, hidden. Before I plug this drive in and show you what's on it, drop a comment right now. Where are you watching from, and what time is it where you are? Because if a box like this showed up at your door tonight, when exactly would you hit play in the dark? I sat at my tiny kitchen table, the same one Grandma gave me when I moved out, and plugged the USB into my laptop. The folder opened. 8 audio files, each one dated over the last 22 months. I clicked the first. Her voice filled the room. Weak, tired, but sharp. The same voice that used to read me Little House on the Prairie until I fell asleep. Session dated March 17th. Counselor asks how the fall happened. I told her again. It wasn't a fall, I was pushed. Down the basement stairs in my own house. Richard was angry about the will. Diane kept saying, "Calm down, Mom, you're confused." I wasn't confused. I remember his hands. The recording cuts. A clinical voice overlays, "Patient continues to exhibit paranoid delusions secondary to TBI. Recommend increased dosage." I played the next one, then the next. Each clip the same core story, but clearer every time, like her mind was clawing its way back through fog. She talked about the old cabin, the one Grandpa built in the 70s on 40 acres of sugar maple land at the edge of Willow Creek. How she'd hidden important papers there years ago. How my parents, Richard and Diane Caldwell, had been pressuring her for months before the accident to sign over power of attorney. How they wanted the land sold, fast, because the development company circling town was offering 7 figures, cash. And how after the push, after the hospital, after the ambulance, they'd moved her to a locked memory care unit 2 states away in upstate New York. Told everyone, including me, she was traveling and healing. Postcards started arriving. Beaches, palm trees, Grandma's handwriting on every one. But now, listening to her real voice, I could hear the difference. The postcards were too neat, too perfect. Mom's careful cursive sneaking through in places. I'd questioned it once, maybe twice at Sunday dinners. Dad would go quiet. Mom would smile that tight smile and say, "Honey, you're working too hard at the clinic. Don't borrow trouble." My sister Brooke, younger, still living at home, helping run their real estate side hustle, would roll her eyes. "Grandma's finally free, Jenna. Let her enjoy it." I let it drop. Life moved fast. Work, bills, my own quiet routine. But those audio files, guilt hit like ice water. She hadn't been free. She'd been silenced. The last file was dated only 6 weeks ago. Grandma's voice stronger. "They think the drugs keep me foggy, but I hide the pills sometimes. Pieces are coming back. The cabin, the metal box under the floorboards. If you hear this, Jenna, find it before they sell everything. The deed is in my name. The trust names you and Brooke, not them. They forged the transfer papers after the fall. I know because I never signed." Then softer, almost a whisper. "They'll do anything to keep you quiet. Be careful, sweetheart. I love you." The file ended. Silence rang in my ears. The note in the box was short. "I cleaned the facility at night, heard her talking when no one else was around, recognized the name Caldwell from town, couldn't stay quiet. M. Harlan." Mr. Harlan, the postmaster, the man who'd handed me the box with shaking hands. Why risk his job, his pension, to send this? I sat there until the streetlights came on outside, replayed every file twice. Grandma wasn't rambling, she was testifying. My phone buzzed. Mom. "Jenna, sweetie, come for dinner tomorrow? Dad's making chili. Brooke will be here too. We miss you." Her voice sounded warm. Too warm. I forced cheerful. "Sure, Mom. See you then." Hung up, stomach twisting. The old cabin sat 20 minutes outside town. Dirt road, no neighbors, pines so thick they blocked the sky. Grandma and Grandpa used it as a weekend escape until he passed. After that, she kept it locked tight, said it held memories worth more than money. I hadn't been there in years, but tomorrow, after dinner, I'd go. Because if she was telling the truth, my parents hadn't just lied, they'd stolen 4 years of her life, and they were about to sell the last thing she had left to protect us. I needed proof, real proof, before they realized I knew. Like this story so far? Hit that like button, it helps more people hear stories like this. And if you want part 2, where I walk into that dinner knowing what I know, drop next in the comments right now. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss when the truth finally breaks open, because this is only getting started. The next evening, I pulled up to the big white colonial on Maple Street. Lights glowed in every window. Smoke curled from the chimney. Picture perfect. Dad opened the door before I knocked. Big smile, apron tied around his waist. "There's my girl." He hugged me quick. Too quick. Inside smelled like chili and cornbread. Mom set the table. Brooke lounged on the couch scrolling her phone, barely looked up. At 24, she was already Dad's shadow in the real estate office, showing properties, closing deals, always talking growth. We sat. Plates passed. Small talk first. "How's the vet clinic? Busy winter? Any new puppies?" Then Mom leaned forward, casual as anything. "Remember Grandma's old stories about the cabin, how she swore there was buried treasure under the floorboards?" She laughed lightly. "Kids believe anything." Dad nodded. "Funny how memory plays tricks. Speaking of, we're thinking of listing the cabin soon. Developers still interested. Big offer. Could set everyone up nice." Brooke finally looked up. "Yeah, Jenna, you always loved that place, but it's just sitting there. Grandma would want us to cash in while the market's hot." My fork froze halfway to my mouth. They were testing me, watching for any sign I knew. I forced a shrug. "Guess so. Been years since I went up there." Mom's eyes lingered. "If you ever want to grab anything sentimental before we list, let us know. We'll go together." I smiled. "Sure." Dinner dragged. Every laugh felt rehearsed. Every question about my life felt like probing. I excused myself early. Early shift tomorrow. Hugs at the door. Mom held on a second longer. Love you, Jenna. Don't be a stranger. I drove straight to the cabin. No headlights after the last turn. Parked behind the pines. Flashlight in one hand, crowbar in the other. Just in case. The door was still locked. Key under the same rock Grandma always used. Inside smelled like dust and pine. I went straight to the living room floorboards, the ones that creaked different. Pried one up. There it was. A small metal box, rusted but solid. Inside, a deed, dated 2001. Grandma's name only. A trust document naming me and Brooke as successor beneficiaries if she became incapacitated. Parents nowhere on it. A handwritten letter from Grandma, dated 2 weeks before her fall. Jenna, if you're reading this, something's wrong. Richard's been asking about the land again. Debts piling up from bad flips in 18. They think I don't know. The trust locks it for you girls. New Vermont law, RSA 564-B, makes it nearly impossible to break without fraud evidence. If they move me, fight. Get the recordings from the facility. I've been leaving clues with Harlan. He'll help. Love you forever. Grandma. I photographed everything. Replaced the board. Drove home, shaking. This wasn't confusion. This was a plan, years in the making. And I had just become the loose end. What happens next? The call from the facility? The anonymous threat? My sister starting to crack. And the night I finally confront them. If you're still here, smash that like button. Comment next for part 2. Subscribe so you don't miss when the cabin's secret finally explodes. Because some family lies are worth burning everything down to uncover. The drive home from the cabin felt longer than 20 minutes. Headlights cutting through falling snow, metal box on the passenger seat like a live grenade. Every shadow on the roadside looked like someone watching. I kept replaying Grandma's letter in my head. They forged the transfer papers after the fall. 7 figures on the table, 1 push down the stairs, 4 years locked away, all so my parents could cash out the last big piece of land Grandma fought to keep. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I scanned every document again, photographed the trust clauses under bright light. RSA 564-B in Vermont. Revocable living trusts become irrevocable on incapacity. Successors, you and Brooke, step in. No amendments allowed without court order. Fraud voids everything. Clear and convincing evidence required. I had recordings. A postmaster risking his life to smuggle them. Grandma's own handwriting warning of exactly this. It was enough. Maybe. Next morning, my phone buzzed at 7:12. Unknown number. I answered anyway. A woman's voice, low, hurried. Jenna Caldwell? Yes. This is Nurse Ramirez, night shift at Lakeside Memory Care in Plattsburgh, your grandmother's facility. My heart slammed against my ribs. She asked me to call if anything changed. She's been sharper the last month, hiding meds, asking for you by name. Last night she gave me a note, said to tell you the floorboards listened. I don't know what that means, but she made me promise. And there's something else. She paused, breath shaky. Billing's insane, $18,000 a month. Most goes to special monitoring she never gets. I've seen the owners laughing about families who never visit. I'm sending you photos of her chart. Cognition scores climbing, sedatives reduced without orders. Keep my name out of it, please. The line went dead. Seconds later, images hit my phone. Charts, notes, Grandma's signature on refusal forms she'd been forging to skip doses. Proof she was fighting back. I forwarded everything to an old family friend, attorney Laura Pierce, Grandpa's lawyer from the 90s. She'd handled the original trust. Her reply came in under 10 minutes. "Meet me at my office, 10 a.m. Bring everything." I did. Laura spread the documents across her desk like cards in a winning hand, eyes sharp behind reading glasses. "This trust is bulletproof, irrevocable now. Fraudulent transfer attempts are voidable under RSA 564-B-7-701. The forged deed? Criminal if proven. And these recordings?" She tapped the USB. "One-party consent in Vermont. Legal to record in therapy if one person consents, which your grandmother did by speaking truth. We can authenticate via chain of custody from Harlan." She leaned back. "But we need more. Medical corroboration, financial trails. I'm filing an emergency motion to challenge jurisdiction and terminate the New York conservatorship. Uniform Guardianship Act lets Vermont courts review out-of-state orders if assets and vulnerable adult are here." She paused. "Jenna, this could get ugly. They'll come after you, smear you, maybe worse." I nodded. "I know." She smiled, small, fierce. "Good, because your grandmother built this shield for a reason. Time to use it." That afternoon, the first threat arrived. Text from blocked number. "Stop digging. You don't want Grandma's accident to happen to you." I screenshotted it, forwarded to Laura, then to the Vermont State Police Elder Abuse Hotline. No reply yet, but the message burned in my pocket all day. Dinner invite came next, Mom's voice on the phone. Too sweet. "Jenna, honey, come over tonight? Dad's grilling. Brooke's excited to see you. We've missed family time." I went, not because I wanted to, because I needed to see their faces when I pushed back. The house smelled like steaks and pine cleaner, same as always. Dad at the grill, Mom pouring wine, Brooke on her phone, new listing photos. We sat outside under the string lights, snow dusting the pines. Conversation light at first. Then Mom leaned in. "We got papers from the developer. They're ready to close on the cabin land. Big number, enough for all of us to breathe easy." Dad nodded. "Grandma would want this. She hated seeing the place empty." Brooke glanced up. "Yeah, you always said you loved those maples, Jenna, but money's money." I set my fork down, slow, deliberate. "I found something interesting yesterday." Silence dropped like a stone. Mom's smile froze. "Oh?" "The metal box under the floorboards." Dad's knife paused mid-cut. Brooke frowned. "What box?" I pulled out my phone, showed the photo of the trust document, the one naming me and Brooke, not them. Mom's face drained of color. Dad stared at the screen like it might bite. "That's old paperwork," he said. "Doesn't mean anything now." I swiped to Grandma's letter, read the key line aloud. "In Richard's Debs, from bad flips in 18, they think I don't know." Brooke's eyes flicked between us, confusion shifting to something darker. "Dad?" He stood, chair scraping. "This is ridiculous. You're imagining things. Just like Grandma started to." I met his eyes. She didn't imagine the push down the stairs. Mom whispered, "Jenna, stop." I didn't. I have her voice on tape, naming you, naming the forgery, naming the isolation so you could sell. Brooke stood now, voice small. "Is that true?" Dad turned on her. "Don't listen to this. She's stressed, overworked." I played the first clip. Low volume. Grandma's voice filled the patio, weak but clear. Pushed. Argument about the will. Diane said she won't remember. Brooke's hand went to her mouth. Mom started crying. Quiet. Calculated. Dad lunged for the phone. I pulled back. "Touch it and I call the police right now." He froze. Brooke backed away. "I need air." She walked inside, door shut soft behind her. Mom wiped her eyes. "Jenna, we did what we had to. The business was sinking. The land was just sitting there." I stared. You locked her away for money. Dad's voice cracked. We thought she'd forget. The doctors said TBI would. I cut him off. She didn't forget, and neither will I. I left them there. Steaks cold on the grill. Snow falling heavier. 3 days later, the motion hit their lawyer's office. Emergency petition to terminate conservatorship. Fraud allegations. Elder financial exploitation under RSA 631.8. Abuse. Confinement. Laura attached everything. Recordings, charts, trust docs, Grandma's letter, the threat text. Harlan gave a sworn statement how he'd smuggled the USB after overhearing staff talk about the rich old lady whose kids never visit. Nurse Ramirez sent anonymized logs through a secure line. It was a mountain. They countered fast. Petition for guardianship over me, claiming delusional fixation and threat to family assets. Said I was unstable, isolated, needed protection. Classic. Turn the accuser into the crazy one. Hearing was set for 2 weeks out, Grafton County Superior Court. I barely ate, barely slept, kept the doors locked. Varied my routes home. Brooke texted once. You okay? No more. I didn't reply. Then the call came. Laura. They're transporting her tomorrow. Court-ordered appearance. She'll be in the courtroom. My knees buckled. Grandma. Here. The courthouse smelled like old paper and coffee. I sat rigid beside Laura. Parents across the aisle. Dad in a suit. Mom in pearls. Faces blank. Brooke wasn't there. Judge Harlan Brooks took the bench. Silver hair. No nonsense. Laura rose first. Your Honor, the evidence shows clear fraud and exploitation. We request immediate termination of the New York order and return of Evelyn Caldwell to Vermont. Opposing counsel fought back. Recordings unverified. Patient diagnosed with advanced dementia. Ms. Caldwell's behavior erratic. Judge nodded to play excerpts. Grandma's voice echoed through the speakers. Every word, every accusation. Parents shifted. Mom clutched her purse. Then the doors opened. Grandma wheeled in. Thinner, hair white, but eyes sharp, alive. The aide parked her beside the witness stand. Judge spoke gentle. Mrs. Caldwell, do you understand why you're here? She looked up, nodded slow, voice raspy but steady. Yes, they took me, lied, pushed me, kept me quiet, for the land. Gasps rippled. Dad went pale. Mom whispered to her lawyer. Grandma continued. Trust is for the girls, not them. I remember everything now. Laura played the kitchen recording, smuggled by Brooke somehow. Mom's voice. Resolve this before she talks more, the payments by time. Courtroom froze. Judge's gavel cracked. Conservatorship terminated. Fraud established. Mrs. Caldwell discharged to Vermont immediately. Matter referred for criminal investigation. Chaos. Mom protesting. Dad silent. Grandma turned to me. Smiled. Small. Real. I crossed the room, took her hand. Warm. Stronger than I expected. She whispered, Roots held, sweetheart. 1 year later, Grandma lives with me now. Small house on the edge of Willow Creek. View of the maples she planted decades ago. She walks with a cane. Therapy 3 times a week. Memory comes in pieces. Some days clear as yesterday, others foggy. But the nightmares are fewer. Mornings we drink tea on the porch. She tells stories about Grandpa, how he built the cabin with his own hands, how she hid the papers because she saw the greed early. Evenings I read to her. She gardens in pots, tomatoes like she used to. The land stays untouched, trust intact. Brooke moved out west, sends money every month, no note, just deposits. I don't reach out, she chose silence too long. Parents got 7 years each. Fraud, exploitation, falsified records. No parole for the first 4. Their house sold, business dissolved, restitution paid back to Grandma's trust. I burned their last letter unopened. Grandma watched the flames, nodded once. Some branches have to fall so the tree survives. Harlan retired quietly.
Nurse Ramirez got a promotion. Reform unit now. The developer backed off. Land stays ours. Pines whisper outside the window every winter. Grandma sits and listens, smiles sometimes, like she hears Grandpa in the wind. I listen too. Healing isn't forgetting, it's remembering and choosing who gets to stay in the story. If someone you love vanishes behind perfect postcards, trust the quiet voice inside. Dig, push, because roots don't break easy, but they'll strangle anything trying to uproot them. If this story hit you, hit like, drop a comment. Would you have confronted them at dinner or waited for court? Subscribe and turn on the bell. Next revenge tale drops soon. Some families hide bodies, others hide the living. See you in the next one.